You're listening to Tabletop Arcanum, a podcast dedicated to learning and exploring the hobby of tabletop gaming. Your hosts are Justin Taylor and Richard Geese, so sit back and relax as we talk, discuss, and joke our way through the hobby we love so much.
Vengeful gods have stolen the stars from the night sky. Soars a magical phoenix, restoring light and hope to this darkened world. In Tsuro Phoenix Rising, you'll glide through the sky by placing, rotating, and flipping Tsuro tiles to transform glowing lanterns into brilliant stars. Beware, other players may lead you in the wrong direction or off the board entirely, but as a phoenix you may rise from the ashes and return to a strategic position. Navigate your way wisely to light a new constellation of 7 stars and restore balance to Tsuro, the path of life. And welcome to Tabletop Arcanum. We're your hosts,
Justin
and Ricky. And you heard us right. Today we're talking about Tsuro Phoenix Rising
by Calliope Games. Relatively recent Kickstarter is coming to retail very soon. They just got the shipments to Kickstarters in the last month or so. And it's the third game in the Tsuro series. 2 to 8 players, plays it under an hour. More players is going to extend your gameplay. Like 8 players pushes it towards the hour. But much like the other Calliope game lines, pretty easy to pick up, pretty fast to get going. A little bit lighthearted because we were going to be very heavy with turkey. So we wanted something a little bit easier to chew on for this review.
Yes.
So, before we begin,
of course, we've got our roll recap. I'll go first because I know you game on game. I, in the meantime, have been playing Harry Potter. You know me. This is my life. I also played some Lanterns.
Did you finish the second box?
We haven't gotten the expansion yet, but we have played through all of the first box many, many times now.
Okay.
Yeah. My girlfriend likes to lead us from book 1 to book 7 and all, like in one sitting. She wants to experience the entire thing all over again. Yeah, that is a lot.
Granted, I've also watched Harry Potter marathons where I pretty much would watch, movie 1 through 8 as much as I can in one sitting.
Yeah.
Usually it's a 2-sitting one. There's a lot. There's 8 movies. They're not short.
Yeah, but it does get more disappointing when you go through 6 games and then you lose, and then she wants to just call it quits, and then we'll start again from game 1 tomorrow.
This is your life.
She's a pretty intense gamer. She's a pretty intense non-gamer gamer.
I was going to say, pretty intense, cutthroat, entry-level gamer, which is a weird combination.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to see her at more competitive gaming levels then.
Yeah. I mean, it's competitive co-op gaming, so...
Right.
She plays for keeps, as long as we all are playing for keeps.
I guess so. Anything else?
Well, Lanterns. I finally got back to the table with you for D&D. But other than that, lots of painting and turkey and... Yeah.
See, this is where, I turned a little bit light on week 1, where I played some Arkham Horror card game, busted out, learned to play Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon by Awakened Realms, started playing Tsuro Phoenix Rising for the review, played a couple rounds of Unmatched Battle of Legends. Bruce Lee almost took down Alice from Alice in Wonderland, but did not. However, Robin Hood destroyed King Arthur. So
nice.
And then learned Shadowrun Sprawl Ops, which is a Shadowrun Kickstarter that also kind of recently started showing up. A buddy of mine had it for a little while, but we learned that one. It's a pretty weird worker placement game if you break it down. It's good, but because all your worker placement, you have a team and you're trying to get better workers, So you roll more dice, and like any Shadowrun RPG, you roll a lot of D6s. And I mean a lot of D6s. Like, if your pool's under 10 dice, you're probably playing it wrong. More Tsuro, played Between Two Cities, busted out Obscurio, Gloomhaven, 2 sessions of that. So the second week was super packed with gaming because was pretty much because of work off for half the week. So what else would I do than put more board gaming in my life and video gaming and other things and catching up on TV shows and binge watching things. So I'm all over the board, just soaking up entertainment.
Yeah.
But it's been fun playing a lot of Tsuro Phoenix Rising in preparation for the review. So that was also a very positive thing. So I guess it's time to talk about Tsuro Phoenix Rising.
Well, before we actually start talking about that, I also want to mention that me and you were dumbfounded today when we saw Arkham Horror.
I don't know if I was dumbfounded.
Not necessarily dumbfounded, but it was April Fool's joke that now has gone too far. We're still going to play it.
Yeah. Fantasy Flight announced that the April's Fools from earlier this year, Arkham Horror, the dog-themed Arkham Horror card game, they're just going to make it into its own standalone scenario. And the first thing I thought in my mind was the Jurassic Park line. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Yeah.
Like, it's my only real reaction to it. Like, I don't know anybody, like, I know a lot of people, a lot of the fans were really excited for it, but for some reason it feels like fan fiction come alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how I feel about that part of it.
Yeah.
Even though it was self-created by Fantasy Flight, so it's not really, it was like self-created fan fiction.
Yeah. But it's such an odd, I mean,
it's going to sell like hotcakes, you know it.
Yeah. I know we'll both pick up a copy of it because why not?
True.
But I just couldn't believe that people were saying, no, we really want to have Dog Arkham Horror. Fantasy Flight's like, you know what? Why not?
People love dogs.
Yeah.
Heck, Duke is a playable character now. And for like legitly playable, not, I'm quote unquote playing Ashcan Pete who comes with Duke, but Duke's the real star. No, the Duke is it. I'm actually going to be really excited if Ashcan Pete becomes your ally that you have.
That'd be great.
Like, that's my owner. Follows
That'd
you
be
around.
Fantastic.
Doesn't really do anything.
No.
So we'll see how it all turns out. It is very standalone, so it does not get to incorporate with your random campaigns like the other standalones, like Blob or Hotel the Murder Excelsior Hotel. And the 5 Arkham characters that are included are specifically for the scenario. You'd build your deck with those characters, and they only work with that scenario. So it is truly self-contained and will not supposedly integrate with anything else. So I guess that's the shining light of, like, while it is fanfic and it's just kind of a weird wonky scenario, at least it's going to be kind of quarantined off in its own little isolated world.
Yeah.
Until next April Fools when they release the expansion for Arkham Horror.
The deluxe Arkham Horror.
The deluxe Arkham Horror.
4 new scenarios.
Yeah.
We're going to do all this.
I have no idea.
Yeah. All right, now we can get into Tsuro. Sorry to bring us back on that.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that today and
you just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It became reality.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about Tsuro Phoenix Rising. 3rd one in the series for Calliope Games. So there was Tsuro. The second one was Tsuro of the Seas. And this is Tsuro Phoenix Rising. So each one has been pretty much the similar baseline. And then they've kind of tweaked the mechanics from 1 to 2, and then again 1 to 3 kind of put a different twist on it than what Seas did. So let's talk about the first impressions first.
I mean, of course, the box art is beautiful. Tsuro usually has some pretty decent box art.
Right.
The tray that you put the cards on is new, and made me very, very worried because this is your copy of the game.
Yep.
Putting them together. like just with your eyes on me, trying to pinch them together so that they click.
It's not putting them together that worries you. It's taking them apart.
Taking them apart, that was even worse.
Feels like you're going to snap the board in half, and you kind of do. Yeah, it's because of one of the mechanics of the game is when you're going into a tile that already exists, you pick it up and you can either flip it, rotate it, or both. And that's kind of the big new twist in this one, is there's permanent tiles and you're going to be manipulating them frequently. So it comes with this 4-piece plastic tray that the corners are recessed, so you can actually poke the corner of the tile to be able to easily pick it up. Brilliant idea. Especially because that was one of my major complaints from the second game, the Tsuro of the Seas, which we'll talk a little bit more how this one improves upon that design. This is one of the ways, though, is that tray. So I like the idea of the tray, but you're right, those tabs have me worried.
Yeah, because one of them inevitably is going to snap. And then it's just going to... I mean, I'd rather not have the tab there and just sit them next to each other than to have to...
Some sort of clip mechanism?
Yeah.
Like, I think may have been a better solution.
Yeah. Like, even if you just have them, like, rest on top of each other, like one slot, one into the bottom of the other, like, that'd be fine.
Right.
The pegs hanging out are thin. The actual tray is very thin. So you feel like you break it even though you've just did exactly what you're supposed to do.
The first player token is a silhouette of the original Tsuro dragon that was made for kind of child safety reasons to be the cutout and not the actual cutout piece. So it's a solid chunk of plastic with a hole punched version.
A dragon hole punch,
yeah, opposed to the actual dragon part itself. I get why they did it the way they did. I just would have preferred a really cool looking dragon. The other first impression I had is it has that same art, the same feel. The tiles feel pretty much the same as well. So they'll hold up for a while, but you do shuffle some of them, and the art and the edges will start wearing a little bit because they are just cardboard printed tiles.
Yeah.
So a little mixed blessing there. Kind of from the other games, I already know what is going to eventually happen to some of these, and I've accepted that truth. But if this is your first Tsuro game, expect those tiles to show some wear and tear because you do mix them up every game. Let's hit the basics of the game, and then we'll dive into good things. So, as Ricky, you kind of described in the beginning, you're trying to recreate a constellation, rekindle the stars in the sky. So that's why you're playing a phoenix, you're moving around the board. On your turn, if you're in front of a space that doesn't have a tile, you get 2 random tiles from a blind stack. You get to place one of them, and you follow, and they all have paths, little glowing lines. And you take your figure and you move along the line that you put in, that's in front of you until you stop. You may go one tile, you may go across the board, you may flip and zip around and do a bunch of stuff. But for every tile that has a lantern on it, they're little plastic lanterns. And there's a couple different spawn points, but there's essentially 6 of them out at any given time. For each one of those you pass and leave that tile, you put a star on it. And then at the end of your turn, you'll collect those stars and reposition those lanterns. If you happen to be facing a tile that already exists, that's where you get to pick it up, rotate it, manipulate it. In some way, you have to extend your path. So you have to move forward somewhere. You may just move one tile again, or you may move multiple tiles. But that's part of the strategy of the game. The other big divergence from the other Tsuro games is everyone starts with 1 life token. As a legendary phoenix, they are reborn from the ashes, so you can die once, whether that's 2 pieces run into each other because they fell onto the same path, you fly off the board, or you can actually, at the start of your turn, just choose to remove your piece, and then on your next turn, start on a new edge board. You can only do that once per game. But it's a different mechanic from the other Tsuro games that twists the strategy a little bit. So not only are you trying to collect stars, and the first to 7 wins that, or not really and you have the ability to respawn.
Yeah.
So, what's good about this one?
What's good? I do like the new take on everything. Playing one-on-one, it was easier to strategize where we're going, what we're doing, what we're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah.
We've played with 4 people, and then that just becomes anarchy because you think you know where you're going, you think the lanterns are lining up just for you, and then all of a sudden, 3 turns later, it's back to you, and the entire board has changed.
Yep.
So,
and at 8 players, it's even more chaos.
Yeah.
The original Tsuros are like that too, where the more players you add, the more chaotic it gets. The one thing about this one, or with all the Tsuro games, is if like I manipulate a tile that you're on, and it allows you to move forward, or you're facing my tile and I flip it in such a way that you have a new path. After I finish my movement, in player order, everybody gets to advance their Phoenix birds. So you may even score stars technically off your turn, depending on how things could play out. And in the higher player count games, that's a lot more common. In the 1v1, the 2-player, you don't see that really unless you happen to get near each other.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Yeah, and I did like the mechanic of trying to grab all of the stars. It kind of gave with I mostly played original Tsuro where it was just, hey, stay on the board as long as you can.
Do whatever you can to not fall off or crash into someone. And that was the goal of the first game, was literally like last survivor standing.
Yeah.
And technically this game has that rule too. If you've died, respawned, and died a second time, you're eliminated from the game. If you happen to be the last player that's not eliminated, you also win. So it's in here too, but it's not very common that happens as much.
Yeah.
So compared to Tsuro of the Seas, I think this was a more elegant version of how to take the base mechanics and tweak them and give a different goal, as well as some different mechanics to play with, like flipping and moving the tiles. Tsuro of the Seas, I want to like it more than I do, because the difference on that one, again, that one doesn't have a board that you can easily pick up and move tiles. However, there's Daikaju monsters, because you're on the sea, so there's sea monsters. And those monsters, every turn, you roll a 2 6-sided dice that tells you what those monsters do, depending if they're a blue or silver or gold monster. And the silver die controls the silver, the gold die controls the gold, and it's like 1 through 5, they will move or rotate. And then on special numbers, they'll respawn. But as they move, they gobble up sea tiles. So they create holes when they move. They eat boats when they move. So again, that one is just, again, your goal is to stay alive. But the manipulation of all those monsters that are super random, it also adds a lot of time to the game and doesn't make it easy, because now you're picking up and moving tiles on a flat board. Phoenix Rising took kind of the idea that you want to manipulate the tiles and made it with the tray. While I'm worried about the longevity of it, gives you an easy way to do so. So kudos on that part.
Yeah, definitely. Even though our first impressions of it weren't too fond of the board, we're in the boat that it's nicer to have the board than not to have the board.
Right. I'll take the worry of, well, are these pieces going to snap off, and I'll pass that bridge when it comes to it, even if it's one of the things like we just slam the 4 of them next to each other, and please don't bump the board too much.
No.
You know, it's really no different from the other Tsuro games, is please don't bump the board too much, because they're just cardboard tiles sitting on a cardboard board that can just slide around anyway.
Yeah.
So, a lot of good stuff going on with it. You don't really miss out on anything from the Kickstarter if you pick this up at retail. The biggest thing that the Kickstarter folks got was a secondary set of Phoenix birds, which were like the rainbow of colors. So your color options are down, but it's still an 8-player game. Same color schemes that the Tsuro and Tsuro of the Seas have. So it really was just kind of like extras that you miss out on. Nothing game-breaking, nothing crazy. Just
nothing that adds or removes from the game. Like it's just cosmetic.
Right. There's no extra tiles. There's nothing like that, which is one of the things I do appreciate. Calliope going to Kickstarter for this one was a little weird, but I think it was because of how ambitious they wanted to make it. And that's nice. So, where's our criticisms? What other than
the board?
The board feeling like I'm going to shatter this with my giant man hands.
Oh, I mean, it just feels like every other Tsuro game. There's new flavor to it, which is nice. But it's a Tsuro game, so it's the same.
Do you think, other than the board, do you think it could have been maybe just like a Tsuro expansion? Like
definitely,
give you some Phoenix pieces and go with it, instead of a standalone game.
Exactly. I mean, they added the lantern, so I mean, you'd have to add extra cards, but it'd feel nice.
I think at that point is probably where that decision is like, well, if we're going to do lanterns and we're going to do new pieces, then we're going to need new tiles. We're pretty much putting a whole new game in it.
Yeah, and they also, this one we can do diagonal. I don't know if we could have done that. Okay, yeah.
That was new.
So that is new. You can do diagonal instead of just the 2 on each of the 4 sides. You can go and add an angle to the tile.
That was a new, which makes the game pieces a little bit more twisty. So there's some old favorite ones like the pound sign or hashtag symbol.
Yeah.
There's like a full crisscross. Like some of those still exist, but now there's like, no, you're doing like almost a 180, but not from not from side to side. You're actually going from the side, and then all of a sudden you're exiting diagonally out of the space.
Yeah.
Which then now you're going in diagonals, and that adds a whole nother element of birds flying everywhere. I liked it for that.
Yeah, I did like that.
Because it's a little refreshing on how the tiles look. I don't know if it was needed.
Yeah. And that's why if they hadn't have added that, they probably could have released the middle 16 tiles.
Yeah.
And you could have just added this to any Tsuro game.
The other thing that, I fell in love with Tsuro because it is such a filler game to me. It's elegant, it's great. You play, like, even with 8 players, you play in less than like 20 minutes on average.
Yeah.
The game does not take that long because you're literally putting tiles out. And once the tiles are out, they're out. They don't manipulate, they don't move. It's how many spaces do you have until you literally run out of space to manipulate. And then the game's over because, like, nope, I have no options. I fly off the board, or I run into you because I literally have no options, so I might as well take out another player while I'm at it. And all of a sudden, like, there's, like, one person standing. My gaming group has used Tsuro so often as the game to play while we talk about what game we're going to play next. Which I don't necessarily say is a bad thing on the original Tsuro. I think that's one of the beauty things of it is like it's so light, it's so nice to just play, go through the motions. It's a very simple, very beautiful looking game, but it's not so crunchy and heavy and thought provoking that you can't have another conversation and look forward. Tsuro Phoenix Rising, there's a little bit too much game in it to still be able to do that. And that's where I feel both Seas and Phoenix Rising, while they elevate the gameplay, because they complicated it that just a little bit too much, takes away from that filler side.
Yeah.
Or at least the conversational filler side. It's still a quick enough game that you could play this while waiting for other people to show up, and then like halfway through your game they show up like, okay, great, we'll get you in the next one, and they don't wait more than 15-20 minutes as they put their coat down, take their shoes off, get settled, get a drink, whatever. So it's still a great filler game. It's just not as elegant and
quick
clean
and
as the first one is.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents on that.
No, and I completely agree with that. So we played before D&D last week while waiting for people to show up. Yep. And
Phoenix Rising, with teaching, we still could do it.
Yeah. It took longer than a normal game of Tsuro, but...
Probably could have gotten 2 regular Tsuro games in.
When it was one-on-one, me and you played through it, I would say... I mean, it took longer than a normal game of Tsuro, but it took... 10 minutes.
10-15 minutes for a game, and then another 10-15 minutes for another one. Like, it's really fast. It really is. And I love it for that.
Yeah.
Like, this is a game that you can kind of crank out and play a bunch of times and not feel that bad about it. You can't do that with things like Gloomhaven, where you're pretty much with setup and teardown minimum 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's just so many pieces. So, every game has its niche, I feel, in some capacity. This is just one of those lighter games. So if you're a heavy, crunchy player, this might be one of that appetizer snack games for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a group or a family that likes the lighter games, this is probably going to be a good bet for you too, in that sense, for that same reason. So I'm already kind of diving into it. Let's say, who are we recommending this for?
I would recommend it for someone who wants to take a step past like a gateway game. I would say Tsuro, the original Tsuro, is a great gateway game. If you want to take that game and just make it slightly more complicated so that you can have more strategy go into the game, this is something I would suggest for you.
Okay. So would you call it a full step up or maybe like a half step?
I'd say it's a half step.
Okay.
Because you're still running around the same.
I feel the same way on that. Like,
yeah.
I don't think this is like it's Gateway 1.5,
yeah,
but not quite the second level.
Yeah.
So if you want a little bit more game than a Gateway, or who you're, if you got people who grasp games or grasp rules pretty, don't necessarily need their handheld in the first game.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a good one. Tsuro, the original, would be really good if you just need to get people into gaming.
Yeah.
I would also recommend, I recommend this game as one of the fillers. The whole line is great for that. Any of the Tsuro is a nice, I'm going to play something heavier, or we just got done playing something heavier. We kind of did this with Gloomhaven. We played 2 sessions of Gloomhaven, and this would have been that, well, we have enough time to play something else, but we don't have enough time to play Gloomhaven a third time today.
Mm-hmm.
This would be something that I would bring out for that.
Yeah.
Or, like, as we both said, something that's great for while you're waiting for other people to show up. Tsuro is almost always my go-to for that type of game. Like, most people can get to the house at 6, but XYZ person doesn't get off work till 6:30 plus travel time. They're probably going to show up around 6:45, 7 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Close enough that you don't want to start anything long.
Mm-hmm.
But there's already people here. Let's do something.
Yeah.
Tsuro.
Yeah. Exactly.
I use the You Don't Know Jackbox games for that too, but that's a different story too.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because those are like 5 to 10 minutes for most of them.
And they're super easy. You just get everyone to jump in all at once because they'll just explain as it goes. But that's neither here nor there.
But that's how I view Tsuro.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tsuro line is, look, this is what you're doing. You're going to take your tiles. You're going to look at where you are on the board. You're going to place one of the tiles down. You're going to follow the path until you can't follow that path anymore. Don't die.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Look, I've already taught you how to play the game. The little nitty-gritty details you pick up as you go. So, who would you not recommend Tsuro Phoenix Rising for? Because we always talk about the good and the bad, who we like it, who we think it's good for, who do we not think it's good for?
If you think that Tsuro is good as is, and you don't want to overcomplicate it, and you just want to have the game the way that it is, I wouldn't suggest this for you. I was even trying to think, like, maybe that this could be, like, if you haven't played Tsuro before and you want to play the original and you want to play this, buy this, but with them with them adding the diagonals, not all tiles will line up.
Right.
So this is kind of, it's a very... You kind of have to be into Tsuro, or you're okay not playing original Tsuro to want to get this game.
I would not recommend this one. Man, this is tough. I would caution someone who already owns one or both of the other Tsuros on this one. If it intrigues you and you think it's going to be something you like, okay, go for it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a third Tsuro game. Mm-hmm. At its roots, you're placing tiles and you're moving your little piece across the board on that path.
No.
If you've played one Tsuro, you've played them all. They're just slightly different flavors. And that's where I would not necessarily recommend this. If you are a Tsuro fan and you really like it and you like those different flavors of it, great. Have all three.
Yeah.
No one's going to stop you from doing that. I just think in the game market where there's so many different games doing so many different things, this has its niche, but I don't need the trilogy to feel complete.
Yeah, I kind of feel that there'll never be a day that you sit down and you go, okay, let's play Tsuro. Or let's play Tsuro of the Seas.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's play Tsuro Phoenix Rising. Like it's once you play one, if you're not content just playing that one and only playing that one, throwing this on, I mean, is the same thing. Just
right.
Yeah.
This one has bacon flavor.
Yeah. Little bacon bits.
Or Phoenix bits. I wonder do Phoenix taste like bacon? What do Phoenix taste like? Are they chickens?
No, don't they just ash up when they die?
Oh.
They probably do not taste well.
I'd wonder. They make good wand cores.
That's true. Well, feathers. But
Well, the feathers, yes, but
yeah.
still.
You gotta get them while they're still alive. I mean, the moment that they die, it's just...
So what happened? Ooh. Man, now I'm gotta go theory crafting. Like, so Phoenix gives its feather, but if that Phoenix dies, does its old feather turn to ash inside the wand core?
I don't know if it's just because it's attached to the body at that point that it turns to ash, or because then it burns up and turns to ash, since the feather's been
we're theory crafting on Phoenix birds now.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, I would recommend Phoenix Tsuro Rising.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a solid game. I think it's really good. I have some hesitation with some of the, like we said, the board quality, the redundancy. Like if this is your third Tsuro game, you either are in for a penny, in for a pound, and really love Tsuro, or it's just going to be redundancy to you at that point. So, caution on that one before you add to cart or go to the shop and put it in a physical cart. I don't know if I've seen a game store with a physical cart. Baskets? I've seen some baskets.
I've seen some baskets from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever you take it as. I think it's a decent enough game on its own. I don't know if it needs a full series to feel complete, but I'm not going to say it's bad either.
No.
So that's our the Tabletop Arcanum take on Tsuro Phoenix Risings. Look for it soon at your local friendly game store. Ask for them if you want it. I just don't know when the actual release is at this point for retail. It should be soon.
Yeah.
Calliope is very good about... they wanted to be very good to the backers who actually made the project possible, but then they're still a business and they're not a small game company. So definitely something I think that should be coming very soon. Hopefully before the big holidays hit. But yeah, the biggest thing, like once it comes out, it should be about $40 when it comes out, just like the other Tsuro games. So should not be any different. It's just what flavor of Tsuro do you want? Original,
Cool Ranch or extreme cheese.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It's
the same thing. It's just slightly different flavor. Yeah.
Yeah, good analogy. So I guess next time on Tabletop Arcanum, we're gonna jack up and get some Cyberpunk on.
Yes, sir.
One, because we're both really excited for Cyberpunk 2077 that's coming out next year as a video game. But Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart Kit also came out. So we're going to take a little bit break on the tabletop board game aspect and talk about Cyberpunk Red, the newest edition of the Cyberpunk RPG.
It's breathtaking. You're breathtaking.
You're breathtaking. I don't believe Keanu Reeves is in the box, but we'll find out.
Have you opened it yet? And you picked it up at Gen Con. You probably should have opened it.
No, I've opened it up and gone through some of it, but...
he needs to breathe, Justin.
No, he doesn't. He's immortal.
That is very true. All right, so until next time, this is Rick...
You want to go again? Try it again.
All right, until next time, this is Ricky.
This is Justin.
And we're going to let Keanu Reeves out of this box.
But only at a safe distance. We're not going to let him, free range.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably for the best.
Yeah, probably for the best. Keep on rolling. You've been listening to Tabletop Arcanum, hosted by Justin Taylor and Richard Geese, and featuring the original music by Paul Moore and Isaac Gilbert.
You can follow us on most social media platforms. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. As always, thanks for listening.